For what felt like an eternity, countless hearts held on to a single aching question. Would the searing pain of losing someone so deeply woven into your soul ever truly fade? The hollow ache, the sleepless nights, the endless spiral of what ifs, the unbearable weight of loving someone who disappeared without warning, leaving nothing behind but memories that cut like glass. The grief became a constant companion, a silent shadow in every corner of life, lingering, gnawing, refusing to be forgotten. But what if, just for a breathtaking moment, you could imagine the impossible? What if everything you believed about permanence, about loss, about fate itself was turned upside down? Picture this. Amy, who had built an entire world around learning to live with the unbearable absence of Ty, her husband, her heart, her anchor, suddenly finds herself face to face with the miracle she stopped daring to pray for. Ty is alive, breathing here. And he isn't just back to reclaim the life they once had. He's carrying a truth so raw, so soul-shaking, that it threatens to rewrite every chapter of their story. An apology carved out of pain, regret, and undying love. An apology powerful enough to rock the very foundation of the life Amy thought she had to rebuild alone. Get ready to witness a love story reborn from the ashes of heartbreak, because Ty's return is about to ignite a ripple effect so profound, it will challenge everything Amy knows about forgiveness, loyalty, healing, and the future she thought she was destined to walk alone. This isn't just a second chance. This is a reckoning, and nothing will ever be the same again. The morning light falls softly across Heartland Ranch, blanketing the gently rolling fields in warm gold as if the land itself has woken up to something extraordinary. Horses graze at a leisurely pace, swishing their tails against the early breeze, while the world appears calm, suspended in a hushed moment just before a storm breaks. Even the tall grasses, usually rustling in the wind, seem to be holding their breath. It is in this setting, in the sleepy stillness of dawn, that Amy wanders out into the yard, eyes a little distant, her heart heavy with memories and that all too familiar pang of longing. She notices how each morning feels like a balancing act. On the surface, she's done so much to keep going, raising her daughter Lindy, holding the family together, staying strong for Jack, for Lou, for everyone who counts on her. But beneath that strength runs a deep current of sadness, a sense that she never truly healed, only learned to live around the absence. Today, the warmth of the rising sun feels slightly off, as though the universe itself is poised to reveal something she never saw coming. The barn is her usual sanctuary. The smell of fresh hay, leather tack, and the comforting snorts of horses waiting for their morning feed normally help her find her center. As she steps inside, the old boards creak underfoot, and a layer of dust motes dances in the filtered sunlight. She heads straight to Spartan's stall, wanting to ground herself with simple tasks, checking his water, running a soft brush through his mane. Spartan, however, seems uneasy. His ears pivot, he lifts his head abruptly from the feed, and his nostrils flare, like he senses a visitor on the wind. Amy rests a trembling hand on the gelding's neck, murmuring, "Easy boy," but it's her own heart she's trying to calm, the frantic spike of her pulse giving her away. Something about this morning feels wrong, or maybe too right. An electric tension hums through the air, setting her nerves crackling beneath her skin. At first, the sound is so soft she almost dismisses it, the faint familiar echo of hooves striking earth. But then it grows louder, closer, a heartbeat outside her own. Amy's hand falters mid-stroke, the brush slipping from her fingers without a sound. Her breath catches, and a strange wild hope claws at her chest. That rhythm, that cadence, it isn't just any horse, it sings through her bones, dredging up memories she had buried deep to survive. Her mind protests, reminding her how many cruel tricks grief has played on her, how often she thought she saw him, only to wake up to a world emptied of him again. Still, her body moves before her brain can stop it. She sets the brush aside with mechanical care, her legs shaky as she forces herself toward the barn doors, each step heavier than the last. Squinting into the blinding gold of the morning light, she sees a figure materializing on horseback just beyond the far fence. Half-formed, wreathed in mist and sun, it could be anyone, it should be anyone, but it isn't. Even blurred by distance, she knows that silhouette, knows it with a certainty so fierce it threatens to tear her apart. Her vision stings with unshed tears, her heartbeat roaring in her ears as the rider draws closer, faster, clearer. Amy clutches the barn door for support as the impossible takes shape before her eyes. It's him, Ty, alive, whole, riding straight toward her, as if no years had passed, as if no grave had ever swallowed him. Her mind reels violently, rejecting what her heart already knows to be true. She saw him die, held him as the light left his eyes, but buried him, mourned him, built a fragile, broken life around his absence. How can he be here? Terror and hope wage war inside her as Ty reins his horse in at the barn's threshold, dust spiraling up like a spirit summoned from another world. For a suspended, aching moment, they only stare. And then Amy runs. She throws herself at him with a sob so raw it shreds the silence, colliding into his chest so hard he rocks back in the saddle. But he's there, real and solid, and his arms catch her without hesitation. He clutches her against him as if he, too, is afraid she might vanish. She sobs against his jacket, breathing in the smell of leather, sweat, and something uniquely him. Tears stream down her cheeks, unchecked. She doesn't care who sees. Ty presses his face into her hair, murmuring hoarse-broken words against her ear. I'm here. I'm here. I'm not leaving again. Every heartbeat, every ragged breath, every trembling touch screams real around them. The ranch seems to hold its breath. The distant shuffle of horses, the creak of barn doors as family members draw closer, confused, stunned. Someone calls her name. Another gasps. But Amy doesn't let go. She can't. If she releases him, even for a second, she's afraid he'll dissolve like a mirage in the morning sun. At last, reality demands her attention. She pulls back just enough to see his face. Older, rougher, a man marked by battles she hasn't yet heard about. Ty slides off the saddle and cups her cheek with a hand that trembles with unspoken emotion. He never wanted to leave you, he rasps, his voice cracked and uneven. The pain in his eyes is devastating. This wasn't by choice. The words tumble out, fragmented, frantic. Secrets spill into the space between them. Desperation, danger, a terrible decision he made when he had no other options. Amy's tears slow, replaced by a tidal wave of confusion and the first sparks of deep, searing anger. The only question that matters surges up inside her, strangling her voice. Why? Why did she cradle his lifeless body? Why did the doctors give up? Why did she grieve a man who was never truly gone? And as she stares into Ty's tear-filled eyes, she knows one thing with brutal clarity. The answers are going to change everything. He explains that he was shocked that she saw that much with her own eyes. He truly was on the verge of death. Doctors were honest about that. But at the final moment, some specialized team swooped in, offering a procedure with a slim chance of success. The catch was that for it to work or for him to survive the aftermath, they had to operate under the radar. In Ty's words, he had to disappear. Public knowledge of his recovery, no hint that he might pull through. There was a looming threat, an organized group that deliberately targeted him. If they discovered he was still alive, they would come not just for him, but for Amy and Lindy too. He says the words as though confessing a sin. He begged the doctors, the authorities, even Jack and Lou to keep it quiet, to let the world believe he was gone for good. Amy listens, her arms crossed over her torso in a self-protective stance. She can't stop shaking. Every syllable feels like a fresh stab. If it was all planned, it means she was kept in the dark intentionally. Why couldn't they trust me? She asks out loud, voice trembling with anger and heartbreak. Oh, couldn't she have handled it? Couldn't she have prepared, or at least avoided the unimaginable loneliness she faced after his death? Ty's expression crumbles. He insists he didn't want to lie, but he saw no other way. If those people knew he was alive, they would have made sure he ended up dead for real, and they wouldn't stop until they reached anyone he loved. He's carrying guilt like 100-pound weight, knowing she suffered, that she had to navigate grief alone, that Lindy grew up without him. In halting sentences, he describes how every single day of his absence was torture, how he ached to see them, to hold them, but believed staying hidden was the only thing that might keep them safe. She reels. It's too big to process at once. Part of her recognizes the love in his actions, that he did this from a place of wanting to protect her and their child. The other part howls in betrayal. How dare he rob her of the right to choose, the chance to stand by him if he was fighting for his life? She doesn't know whether to slap him or kiss him. Her gaze flickers over to Jack, who stands in the orange shadow, hat in hand, sorrow and relief crossing his weathered features. She sees Lou behind him, tears in her eyes, face pale. So they all knew. Amy's voice is hoarse when she finally speaks. She demands to know how many nights they watched her break down, how many mornings they saw her wake up hollow and still didn't say a word. She can't fathom the magnitude of this deception. There's a tension so thick in the air, it feels like the barn walls themselves might crack. Ty looks terrified, but resolute. He says he understands her rage. He expected nothing else, but he had to do it. He couldn't let her or Lindy become targets. He can't ever apologize enough to erase the years she spent mourning. She's not sure how to move in this emotional minefield. All she knows is that she's staring into the eyes of the man she loved more than life, the man she believed was buried. She doesn't deny the flicker of joy in seeing him again. Her heart practically leaps out of her chest at the idea he's back. Yet the betrayal stings so deeply that she wonders if she can ever fully trust him again. Eventually, all she can say is, "I don't know if I can forgive you." The words tear out of her because she hates how brutally honest they are. She spent so long building some semblance of a new life, learning how to breathe without him. Ty's voice quivers when he says he will wait as long as it takes. He'll stay right here on the ranch, in the background if necessary, doing whatever she needs to prove he isn't walking out again. The tears that streak his face are enough to break her heart all over, because she sees not only her own pain reflected there, but the torment he's been carrying. She can't help but step toward him, letting him gently wrap his arms around her again, if only for a moment, because the yearning to be near him is overwhelming. In the following hours, the ranch feels as though it's been dropped into some surreal, alternate reality. Usually at midday, everyone bustles around. Tim might be fiddling with a new horse trailer. Lou might be juggling business calls for Maggie's or some new project. Georgie might be training for an upcoming competition. But the presence of Ty, inexplicably back from the dead, overshadows everything. Lou hovers anxiously, desperate to ask questions, but also giving Amy space. Jack tries to maintain calm, acknowledging the joy that Ty is alive, yet understanding that the emotional fallout is massive. Tim keeps his distance at first, crossing his arms and casting sharp glances, as though part of him resents Ty for the pain his disappearance caused. But another part is grateful beyond words to see him breathing. Amy retreats to the barn's loft, climbing the worn ladder with heavy, uncertain steps. She finds an old wooden bench tucked by a window and sinks onto it, staring blankly across the rolling fields bathed in the dying light of day. Outside, everything looks unchanged, serene, golden, timeless. Inside her mind, a storm rages. She sits there for what feels like forever, the stillness broken only by the soft rustle of hay and the occasional murmur of horses shifting below. Eventually, the ladder creaks again. Ty climbs up, moving slowly, cautiously, as if afraid he might spook her. He settles nearby, careful to leave a respectful distance between them. He doesn't speak, neither does she. The silence is fragile, hanging between them like a thread stretched too thin. When Amy finally breaks it, her voice is rough and low. She doesn't ask for apologies. She asks for the truth. The whole unvarnished truth about the day he disappeared, the day she cradled his broken body and believed she lost him forever. Ty draws in a long, ragged breath before he begins. He speaks of chaos, of men in unfamiliar uniforms, not local law enforcement, descending out of nowhere, yanching him from the brink of death, of being whisked away in a disguised ambulance, drugged into unconsciousness, forced into a desperate medical procedure in a place no one could find. He speaks of months spent recovering behind locked doors, isolated from the world he loved. While dangers still circled like wolves at the door, he tells her how he tried. God, he tried to reach out, how he wrote letter after letter, each one a lifeline he could never send, how he picked up the phone countless times only to hang up, paralyzed by fear of leading danger back to her doorstep. His voice cracks when he confesses the worst part, knowing every single day the hell she was living through and believing that silence was the only way to keep her safe. Amy listens, motionless, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. Every word heals and hurts all at once. It's like living the nightmare again, but from the other side of the glass. When he's finished, she speaks softly, but with an edge to her voice. She tells him she understands why he made the choices he did. But it doesn't erase the devastation. It doesn't erase the loneliness, the funeral, the years of building a life on ashes. She wonders aloud if he should have trusted her more to fight beside him, not be protected by being left behind. Ty bows his head, grief and regret written plainly across his face. If he could change it, he swears he would. He would rewrite every terrible decision, but all he can do now is stand here broken but breathing and try to rebuild. The next day, the ranch feels caught between two worlds, tension crackling like a storm about to break, but also an undercurrent of cautious hope threading through the air. Tim finds Ty by the paddock. For a long moment, they just stare, hard and unblinking. Then Tim mutters a curse under his breath, strides forward, and folds Ty into a rough, back-slapping hug, half anger, half relief. "You damn fool," he grunts, voice thick. Lou hovers nearby, alternating between lawyer mode and big sister tears. She's already rattling off a list of complications: death certificates, bank accounts, land deeds, pacing the dirt with a manic kind of energy, laughing and crying at the same time. Georgie lingers at a distance, memories of Ty as her mentor and big brother figure flashing across her face. Eventually, she walks to him, silent but sure, and hugs him fiercely, clinging to him like an anchor she thought she had lost forever. Later, Amy rides out alone to the familiar grove where her initials are carved into a towering old tree. Ty follows on horseback, trailing a respectful distance. When she dismounts, she doesn't speak. She lays her hand against the rough bark, grounding herself. Ty steps up behind her, not touching her, just being there, a silent offering. She thanks him quietly for giving her space. Then, with her voice raw and breaking, she says what has weighed on her heart since the moment she saw him. "I never stopped loving you." A beat of silence. But learning to trust again, that's going to take time. Ty's eyes shine, and he nods, solemn and sure. "I'm not going anywhere." They stand side by side, gazing at the scarred initial symbols of a simpler time, knowing that what they build now will be harder, deeper, earned. That evening, the family gathers around the long wooden dinner table for the first time in what feels like a lifetime. Lindy chatters brightly about school projects, oblivious to the undercurrents of emotion swirling around her. Georgie mentions an upcoming show jumping event, trying to bring normalcy to the table. Then Tim and Lou bicker playfully about business ideas, laughter breaking through old walls. At the head of the table, Jack sits silently, his weathered face etched with something fierce and tender as he takes in the impossible sight of Ty sitting there, alive. The story of Amy and Ty is far from over, and maybe that's the most beautiful part of all. Love, loss, and hope have woven their lives together into something unbreakable, even in the face of the impossible. Now, with a second chance written in the stars, we get to walk alongside them, to witness how hearts can heal, trust can be rebuilt, and how love, when it's real, never truly dies. Out here under the endless open sky.